Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News Program, and up next are tonight's top stories. In Gaza, Zionist forces turn 8 sites into death traps. Dozens are killed and wounded, while over 40,000 babies face starvation. Hamas calls Israel's tent deliveries a sham. Coming up next in Libya, big turnout in round 2 of local elections. The UN wants the process wrapping up in the remaining towns. Also not news in Sudan, the army pours troops into Al-Fashir as RSF raids, kill and kidnap civilians. 8 kitchens in Khartoum shut down, worsening the crisis before a key UN meeting. And later on, EU leaders rally Zelensky before his talks with Trump. Washington eyes fresh Russia sanctions as Moscow claims it stopped a nuclear plant attack. All this and more shortly. Welcome back. We start in Gaza, where another bloody day unfolded on Sunday. Occupation airstrikes killed at least 56 or at least 60 Palestinians and left dozens more wounded, medical teams say. The deadliest strikes tore through Khan Yunis, hitting people lined up for aid in Rafah and near the Murag axis. Others were killed when bombs slammed into Gaza City's Baptist Hospital and crowded displacement camps in the center and north of the Strip. Occupation forces also opened fire near several aid distribution points, killing at least 42 more and injuring dozens. The Nasser Medical Complex said most victims were in Rafah and Khan Yunis, where some even died after 8 parachutes fell on them. In the north, 6 people were killed near Beit Lahiya's Zakim axis, while Al Auda Hospital reported more casualties from a strike on Salah ad-Din Street.
Check your doors locked. Check your doors locked.
Meanwhile, Gaza's media office is sounding the alarm. Over 40,000 infants are at risk of dying from severe malnutrition. Officials say children and patients are already dying every day from hunger, while more than 100,000 others suffer dangerous deficiencies. Aid groups warn this is a ticking time bomb for an already devastated population.
More than 40,000 infants under the age of 1 are suffering from severe malnutrition. Their fragile lives hanging by a thread. Every single day, deaths among these children and other vulnerable patients are being recorded as a direct result of hunger and deprivation. Their images captured in sound and sight stand as undeniable testimony to their tragic final moments, broadcast to the entire world. Meanwhile, over 100,000 children and patients are enduring a worsening food crisis that signals the approach of a large-scale humanitarian catastrophe.
In another story, dozens of Palestinian families emaciated children with empty pots where mothers and fathers crowded at Gaza Charity Kitchen on Sunday, desperate for just a handful of rice. Aid workers say hunger has deepened over 22 months of war, fueled by severe restrictions. Food experts now warn the worst-case scenario is no longer looming. It's unfolding in Gaza right now.
I come to the charity kitchen at 6 a.m. to look for food for my children. If I don't have any now, I'll wait until the afternoon or until sunset to find some. My children survive on these small amounts of lentils or rice we receive from the charity kitchens. I hope God will help me find something. My children haven't had breakfast yet. They're waiting for me to bring them something from this kitchen.
Without the help God and the charity kitchens, we would have starved to death. We arrive here at 8 a.m. and suffer to get small amounts of lentils or rice. We suffer a lot. Without these charity kitchens and God, we would not have survived.
Meanwhile, hospitals across Gaza Strip received 47 mortars and treated 226 wounded in the latest wave of Zionist attacks on Sunday. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, the occupation's death toll has now climbed to 61,944 mortars, with 155,886 others wounded since the genocidal war began. The Zionist entity seems bent on forcing Gaza south in a bid to seize Gaza City. The occupation army says it will begin distribution tents and equipment starting Sunday. Yasin Rukti has the full story.
A strong sense of déjà vu is sweeping through the heart of Gaza as residents prepare to move south not for a holiday but to escape a looming forced displacement. Across the strip, Palestinians are boarding carts and old vans, fleeing in anticipation of what many see as a renewed attempt by Israeli occupation authorities to relocate Gaza's population to the southern areas. While some have taken the initiative to leave, others refuse outright, choosing to remain in their homes despite the destruction around them.
How am I supposed to reach the south? I'd have to walk with my children, my wife, my elderly parents to reach Rath Al Khan Yunis. And even there's no room. Where can you move 1 million people?
As part of a deceptive relocation plan, Zionist officials have claimed they will deploy tents and aid equipment in southern Gaza, presenting it as support for the displaced. However, many Gazans view this as a thinly veiled strategy to seize their land. This prospect is deeply unacceptable to them, fueling widespread resistance and a determination to stay steadfast.
This is another displacement operation, an attempt to confiscate land, that's all. We call on Israel to withdraw its army from Gaza and allow the displaced to return home.
Meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu's recent declaration of intentions to fully control Gaza, despite the territory already being under strict blockade and military offensive, has sparked significant controversy. The announcement has drawn sharp criticism not only from Palestinians but also from international organizations and human rights groups and some of Israel's closest Western allies.
They want to occupy Gaza. It's already happening. What good will displacement do? I just want to be home, to live in a tent in my country.
The situation remains tense as Gaza's residents grapple with the possibility of yet another forced displacement, standing firm amid uncertainty and destruction.
In reaction, Hamas has slammed the occupation's move to bring tents into southern Gaza, calling it a cover for fresh crimes. The group warned the plan signals a new phase of genocide and mass displacement, targeting both Gaza City residents and already displaced families.
The intention of the Chief of Staff of the Terrorist Occupation Army is proved today by the plans to occupy Gaza City and accelerate military operations. There is a Zionist declaration of a new wave of brutal genocide and criminal displacement targeting hundreds of thousands of residents and displaced people in Gaza City. The talk of bringing tents into southern Gaza under the guise of humanitarian arrangements is a blatant deception meant to cover up a horrific crime the occupation is preparing to commit. This comes as the United Nations continues to reject such actions by the occupation, considering them to lack the most basic humanitarian standards and to constitute a criminal use of humanitarian pressure against civilians to achieve political and military goals.
Hamas warned Sunday that Israel's Gaza assault is tied to its West Bank occupation, part of a coordinated Zionist push to displace Palestinians and impose a so-called Greater Israel over all of historic Palestine.
What is happening in Gaza is not separate from what's taken place in the West Bank, where daily raids, armed settler attacks, and the burning of property continue, a scene that reflects the unity of the Zionist project aimed at expelling Palestinians from the land and stripping them of their rights, leading to the Judaization of Islamic and Christian holy sites. At the same time, the criminal Netanyahu and his government are openly advancing their efforts to uproot our people, revealing their true intentions of establishing the so-called Greater Israel at the expense of Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and others.
On the ground, Hamas fighters hit Zionist vehicles and troops pushing into Khan Yunis and Salah ad-Din Sunday, releasing footage of strikes on 2 armored carriers, plus mortar and rocket fire. Meanwhile, the Islamic Jihad's Al-Quds brigades shelled occupation forces east of Gaza City, also airing combat clips of their fighters in action. Elsewhere in occupied Palestine, dozens of Zionist settlers stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque on Sunday, roaming its courtyards in groups, performing Talmudic rituals and staging provocative tours under heavy protection from occupation forces. In Yemen, a wave of explosions lit up Sanaa's early Sunday after airstrikes hit a power station south of the capital. The Houthis fired back, announcing that it struck Lod Airport in occupied Jaffa with a new Palestine II hypersonic missile. Their spokesman says the strike hit its market, shutting down the airport and sending millions scrambling to shelters.
نفذت القوة الصاروخية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a qualitative military operation targeting Lod Airport in the occupied Jaffa area with a hypersonic ballistic missile Type 32. By the grace of God, the operation successfully achieved its objective, causing millions of usurping Zionist settlers to rush into shelters and resulting in the suspension of airport operations.
Turning to Libya now, election officials say voter turnout hit 71% in the second round of municipal polls. More than 160,000 citizens cast their ballots across 26 municipalities. The High National Elections Commission says counting is underway, with sorting and tabulation continuing after polls closed Saturday night. In the meantime, the UN support mission in Libya urged the swift resumption of voting in municipalities where elections were suspended, stressing the need to guarantee every voter the chance to cast a ballot. Following Saturday's polls, UN SMEL praised the process as orderly and peaceful and called on all sides to remain calm and resolve disputes through legal means.
The mission welcomes the decision of the High National Elections Commission to resume voting in 7 municipalities in the Zawiya region on August 23rd. The mission renews its call to expedite the resumption of election in 16 municipalities where the process was suspended on the eve of election day, as well as in municipalities where elections were suspended in July, in order to ensure that citizens exercise their right to elect representatives to their municipal councils in all regions of the country through a peaceful, inclusive, and transparent process.
Turning to Africa now, Algeria has reaffirmed its backing for a Southern African development community, saying regional integration and economic transformation are key for Africa's future. Speaking at SADC's 45th anniversary in Algiers, Secretary of State to the Foreign Minister for African Affairs, Salma Bakhta Mansouri, pointed to the African Union's Agenda 2063 as a shared roadmap toward unity, prosperity, and peace.
Such as amplifying connectivity. Today, SADC stands as a model of regional integration, with ambitious cross-border projects in infrastructures, energy, transport, and industrialization. In this context, the African Union Agenda 2063, the blueprint of a united, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, remains our common guide. We are now advancing through its second 10 years implementation plan, which started in 2024. The decade of acceleration, which emphasizes the need to translate our shared ambitions into tangible impacts.
SADC is a very vibrant regional organization with a membership of 17 countries. We are strong partners with Algeria economically, socially, and also on international issues. We share a lot of principles which are guided by the values of international law, United Nations resolutions, either General Assembly or Security Council. That's why we share the same positions on Palestine, on the self-determination of the people of Western Sahara. And we're honored to be celebrating today with the Secretary of State for African Affairs.
The Algerian Secretary of State also underlined that Algeria's hosting of the 2025 Intra-African Trade Fair next month will be a turning point for boosting economic cooperation and partnerships, a step aimed at driving forward Africa's integration process.
Algeria will be hosting the Intra-African Trade Fair in September, from 4th to the 10th of September, which will provide an unparalleled platform for African businesses, innovators, youth and women entrepreneurs to showcase opportunities, deepen partnership, and accelerate progress toward a truly integrated continental market. The active participation of SADC member states will be vital to the success of this landmark event.
Elsewhere in Africa, the Sudanese army has deployed significant reinforcements to Kordofan state as part of a strategic push toward Darfur, with the ultimate goal of lifting the siege on Al-Fashir, North Darfur's capital. Army sources told Al Mashhad website Sunday that the operation follows orders from Transitional Sovereignty Council head Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who vowed to wage a decisive battle against the Rapid Support Forces militias in Al-Fashir. The Rapid Support Forces shelling killed 17 civilians and wounded 25 in residential areas of Al-Fashir, Darfur on Saturday, with local monitors reporting extensive property damage. In a separate attack, unknown gunmen assassinated North Kordofan's chief prosecutor Tijani Adam Soubi in Al-Obeid, where witnesses describe worsening security chaos amid proliferating armed groups and frequent killings. South of Khartoum, the volunteer-run Kababish emergency room says it's been forced to shut down all community kitchens and food distribution points because funds have run out. In an urgent appeal, the group called on humanitarian organizations to step in with financial and in-kind support so meals for vulnerable residents can resume. Meanwhile, in Al-Fashir, the Rapid Support Forces have stepped up bombardments, killing and wounding dozens while worsening a dire humanitarian and food crisis. Aid agencies warn that hundreds of thousands remain at risk as relief convoys struggle to reach the city. Salman Sef has the details.
Sudan's conflict remains intense, with heavy fighting between the army and rapid support forces, especially in Darfur. Al-Fashir, the last army-held city in northern Darfur, saw its heaviest shelling in months by rapid support forces this week, causing dozens of casualties and a new wave of displacement. The city is now under siege, with food, medicine, and aid nearly cut off. The humanitarian crisis is also worsening rapidly, putting thousands of civilians at risk.
31 people, including 7 children and a pregnant woman, were killed and 13 others injured in an artillery attack by the Rapid Support Forces on the Abu Shouk camp in North Darfur. The wounded were taken for treatment under extremely poor humanitarian and medical conditions. The Sudan Doctors Network considers these ongoing attacks by the RSF in North Darfur to constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity under international humanitarian law.
The ongoing conflict has plunged the region into a deep humanitarian and food crisis, with the city of Al-Fashir under siege. Hundreds of thousands now face starvation, compounded by the spread of deadly diseases and the total collapse of healthcare services.
Everyone in Al-Fashir is locked in a daily struggle to survive. After more than 2 years of war, people have completely exhausted all coping mechanisms.
This deteriorating situation has prompted urgent warnings from the international community. Global actors are sounding the alarm over the devastating impact of the prolonged conflict and are calling for immediate international and UN intervention to stop the bloodshed.
We are horrified by reports of the dire situation in Al-Fashir. North Darfur, the Rapid Support Forces must urgently allow humanitarian aid to reach those facing famine in the city and surrounding displacement camps amid ongoing escalation.
Sudan is now grappling with an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe, while also facing the looming danger of becoming a battleground for regional power struggles and global geopolitical rivalries at the expense of its people and national resources.
In another major development, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Sunday he sees no sign that Russia is ready for a trilateral summit with the United States, just ahead of his meeting in Washington with President Donald Trump. Speaking in Brussels alongside European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen, Zelensky underlined that Moscow has shown no willingness to engage at this stage.
Since the territorial issue is so important, it should be discussed only by the leaders of Ukraine and Russia at the trilateral Ukraine, United States, Russia. So far, Russia gives no sign that trilateral will happen, and if Russia refuses, then new sanctions must follow.
Meanwhile, the European Commission has welcomed President Trump's proposal to give Ukraine security guarantees similar to NATO's Article 5. In Brussels, stand-in with President Volodymyr Zelensky, Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen, such guarantees are key to protecting Ukraine's territory and pushing forward efforts to end the war with Russia.
Okay. Ukraine must be able to uphold its sovereignty and its territorial integrity. There can be no limitations on Ukrainian armed forces, be it cooperation with or other third countries or assistance from other third countries, no limitations for the Ukrainian armed forces. As I've often said, Ukraine must become a steel porcupine, undigestible for potential invaders.
For his part, U.S. President or U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned Sunday that Russia could face fresh sanctions if no peace deal is reached in Ukraine. Speaking to ABC News, he stressed there would be consequences if negotiations with Moscow collapse.
Unless both sides make concessions. The deadline is as soon as possible. We want this war to end as soon as possible. I mean, that's why we're working on it. In terms of sanctions, look, at the end of the day, if we can't reach a peace agreement here and this war continues and so forth, then I anticipate you'll see the president take further action. He's already made that clear. So we may very well reach a point where everyone concludes no peace is going to happen here. We're going to have to do more sanctions. But when you do that, you are basically walking away from any prospect of a negotiated settlement here, which is what everyone is asking us to do.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced Sunday she and other European leaders will join Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Monday's White House talks with the United States President Donald Trump. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte will also attend in a diplomatic push coordinated at Zelensky's request, according to statements from Brussels and NATO headquarters. And on the ground, Russia's defense ministry said Sunday its forces foiled a Ukrainian drone strike on the Smolensk nuclear power plant. TASS, citing FSB sources, reported the drone was intercepted by electronic warfare systems before it could hit its target. And finally, it is time to catch up on more international news stories in the News in Brief with Zahra Farjani.
In Iran, security forces killed 7 militants in the southeastern province of Sistan Balochistan on Sunday. Officials said the fighters, all linked to the group of Ansar al-Furqan, were planning attacks on sensitive military and security sites. Meanwhile, in Africa, Kinshasa and the M23 armed movement have received a draft peace agreement just days before talks are set to resume. A Qatari mediator confirmed preparations are underway in Doha, with the final deal expected no later than August 18th. In Pakistan, authorities report that at least 344 people have died in flash floods, with around 150 still missing. Officials fear many may be buried under the rubble or swept away by floodwaters in the country's northwest. And in Asia, the United States has cancelled a planned trade delegation visit to New Delhi later this month. The move clouds prospects for a new trade deal, as Washington prepares to impose tariffs of up to 50% of Indian imports starting August 27th.
And that wraps up tonight's news. For more updates, you can always visit our social media platforms as well as our website. Ms. Lamstead signing off. Good night.